Hello, friends. Hello, forever family. I am a grateful follower of Jesus Christ, and I struggle with the painful hurt of divorce, food issues, pride, and all kinds of hurts, habits, and hangups. And this week, I'm struggling with COVID 19, and my name is Eric. That's right. I have COVID 19, and I am quarantined in my house. I know it doesn't look like I'm in my house, but I am. I'm in my house quarantining. My wife brings me down meals like I'm a prisoner. She wears a mask. She tells me to stay back. And then she sets the food down and goes back upstairs. And then I eat and I leave my dishes and dirty clothes for her. Anyway, it just feels a little isolated, which is the way it's supposed to feel because I'm supposed to stay isolated until I get over this. But I want to focus just a moment on thoughts. What are you thinking about? And I'm not talking about right this moment. I'm talking about maybe last night before you went to bed. Is there anything that is dominating your thought life? Maybe a work problem, or maybe just work in general. Maybe it's a relationship with a family member or with a friend, or maybe someone who's not a friend. Maybe you are struggling with thoughts of negativeness, or maybe you have a secret that you are trying to keep, and that secret is really a heavy burden upon you. So I just want to take a minute and let you do a self check and evaluate if your thoughts are positive or negative. I recently read that John Hopkins Medical School, which is a incredible medical facility and research center, they recently did a study that shows that 70% of disease is psychosomatic. Now, that does not mean that the disease is not real and has real world consequences, and they do. Disease will kill you, but that the origin, 70% of the origin of that disease was not physical, but it was mental. That is amazing. Another study by Stanford University showed that over 2,000 chemicals were secreted from the brain into the body through the bloodstream. Over 2,000 chemicals secreted from the brain to the bloodstream. That's amazing. Our thoughts are so huge. And so it's really important that we take time to evaluate what we're thinking about. So I want you to do a little bit of a self check for yourself. And I'm going to go over some Bible verses with you and talk through some of this with you. Proverbs 23:7 says, "For as he thinks within himself, so he is. As a man thinks within himself, so he is." King David, a great man of faith, sometimes struggled with his own thoughts. In Psalms 55:2, it says, "Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught." Psalms 139:23, David says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Know my anxious thoughts." So if David, a great man of faith, if he struggled with his thoughts, then it makes sense that I'm going to struggle with my thoughts as well. So, what can I do if I find my thoughts are moving to a negative bent? If my thoughts are causing me to go down a dark path? So, I'm going to give you some suggestions. Number one, I've already asked you to do this. Do a self check. Do a self check and think about, what am I thinking about? What am I dwelling on? Am I dwelling on positive things or negative things? And let me give you a little bit of disclaimer right off the top here, is that if you have had tragedy in your life, if you've had trauma in your life, if you've lost a loved one, or if you are dealing with sin in your life, these things, it is normal for these things to dominate your thoughts. So if you are going through grief, or if you're going through some kind of trauma, or dealing with trauma, that is something that you need to process with a professional, or with through some kind of a recovery program like Celebrate Recovery. If you are dealing with sin in your life, unconfessed sin can take us into a really deep, dark path. I know because I've been there. So if you've got unconfessed sin, or if you are dealing with trauma or grief, that's normal for you to dwell on some of those things. And those are some actions that you need to maybe do to help yourself there. Maybe you need to see someone, or maybe you need to make amends or offer forgiveness. And so that's for another topic. So the things that I'm going to suggest is if you feel like that your thoughts are negative and are moving that direction, not because of some kind of event, but of just some negative thinking, stinking thinking, as we like to call it. So Lamentations 3:40 says, "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." So we're supposed to do a self check, uh, preferably every day, to make sure that our mind and our spirit is in the right place with God. So Principle 7 says, "Reserve a daily time with God for self examination, Bible reading, and prayer." And so we need to take that time to evaluate ourselves and do a self check. So if you do a self check and you find that you're having some negative thoughts, and let me encourage you to use a gift that God has given us. God has given us the gift of sensory input. You're probably watching this video with your eyes. You're probably listening to my voice with your ears, and you are smelling something right now. You may not realize it, but there's smells all around you, and you can touch. These are all part of our sensory inputs. And I will tell you that they are powerful and that they can make our minds, they push our minds into either good things or bad things. So if you are struggling with negative thoughts, then try reading God's word. It's so funny. People say, "I'm starving. What can I do about it?" Well, eat. If you're starving, eat. Your spirit needs to eat as well. And so read God's word. Also, step out into the Ozarks. If you are from Northwest Arkansas, or if you live in an area where there's trees and waterfalls or rivers or streams or flowers, go out and experience some of those things, and they will help you put your mind in a positive frame of mind. And so it's important that we use those sensories. Smell is so important. If you don't smell something good, go take a shower and use some really good smelling soap or shampoo. Maybe burn a scented candle, and you'll be amazed at how those aromas will change your thinking. Put on bake some cookies, some chocolate chip cookies, and you'll notice that your mind will go to something positive. So use those sensory inputs that God has given us. Put in some Christian praise music. Worship God. When I go for a walk, I put in my headphones and I put on some praise music, and it just puts my thoughts in a positive thing. So I want to encourage you to use those sensory inputs that God has given us. Lastly, but not least, is pray, communicate with God. I already mentioned Principle 7. It says for daily evaluation, Bible reading, and prayer. So you want to communicate with God, make his thoughts your thoughts. Psalms 139:17 says, "How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them." How important is it to keep our thoughts in check? It's absolutely huge. So I want to encourage you, do a self check. If you find that your thoughts are negative, then use your sensory inputs to maybe push your thoughts in a positive direction. I want to share one more verse with you, and I'm going to take myself off camera so maybe you can focus on this verse, and I think you'll like it. It's out of Philippians 4:8, and it says, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing, fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." So I hope this video finds you in a really good place. I hope that your mind is in a really good place. But if it's not, help to push your mind into a positive frame of mind by using your sensory inputs. You're doing one of those things right now. You are focusing on encouragement and on God. So I hope you have a blessed week, my friend, and I hope God keeps you and blesses you.